Sunday morning. I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to this week's Community Focus. Right now, I'm joined by Jourdyn McQueary, who is the Executive Director of Equality Toledo. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, one of the big things that just happened with regard to Equality Toledo's efforts, and it's definitely having an aftershock across the state, was that HB 68, which Governor DeWine vetoed. Well, the House has now overrode that veto. So, what was the initial reaction?
Unfortunately, we kind of saw that it might have been coming. We weren't sure that the Senate, the House or the Senate would react well to Governor DeWine's veto. So just as community organizers on the ground, speaking with the trans people in Ohio, we kind of planned ahead. We've hosted a couple events so that people can stay informed as things are changing, because things have been changing very quickly.
Kind of talk about Governor DeWine's position on this, because he doesn't support surgeries for minors, but he does support gender affirming care. So explain the difference for people.
So gender affirming care is a broad area. It's an umbrella term basically to talk about and discuss any of the medical, social, mental health procedures or medications that people will choose to take because they're experiencing something called gender dysphoria. And each individual person that experiences this, they're going to have, it's a conversation between them and their doctors, or if they're young, them, their doctors, and their parents. Each individual person is going to have a different experience with it. They're going to ask and need different things. So that can come in the form of surgeries if you're an adult, or it can be something as similar as a social transition, like changing your name, using different pronouns, or for like younger individuals, things like puberty blockers.
And when the governor had vetoed HB 68, which would have banned this type of care, as well as surgeries for minors. So kind of talk about Governor DeWine's position on this, because he doesn't support surgeries for minors. And so is that something Equality Toledo sees eye to eye with the governor on?
Most minors are not, the likelihood of a surgery occurring on a minor is slim to none. What Equality Toledo stands for is ensuring and advocating that these youth, as well as these adults that are also going to experience hindrances to their care, have access to healthcare so that they can make their own personal and private decisions without having the government stepping in any way.
And so following that veto being overrode by the House, what's next for Equality Toledo?
We're just keeping our eye on it. The next, I believe on January 23rd is when the Senate will decide whether or not the Senate will vote on whether or not to override the veto. In the meantime, Governor DeWine also has his executive order that he introduced that they're looking for public comment through February. So Equality Toledo has just pushing for people to talk to their legislatures, talk to their governor, share their opinions, and if they believe that this healthcare should be accessible, saying that and advocating for that, and just ensuring that our community members can stay safe despite what's going on.
And the governor, during that press conference announcing his veto of HB 68, he talked about the discussions he had with families that benefited from gender affirming care. So kind of talk about the human aspect of this too, because people get caught up in debates, they get caught up in headlines, but there is that human aspect. And at the end of the day, these are their neighbors.
Yeah, these are your neighbors. The transgender community is small. There's not very many in the grand scheme of all the different types of people there are in the world. That being said, it's a demographic of people that experience higher rates of violence than other people do, that experience higher rates of mental illness, things like depression, anxiety, unfortunately, suicidal ideation. Now, these experiences you're not experiencing these things because you're trans, but you get a bigger brunt of that experience because of the way that people treat you. And so when your life and your story does become a headline, like we've seen, it can strip you down, make you feel less human to other people. And so that it puts you at a higher risk of experiencing those mental illness and these types of problems, discrimination, harassment. And so advocating for this group of people is really important, and ensuring that these people can access the healthcare that actually lowers the rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, because it allows people to live freely and as they are. Advocating for people's rights to access that is super important.
And not too long ago, we turned the calendar to a new year. And so, what does 2024 look like so far with regard to your organization's efforts?
I think that we have it's okay. I think 2024 will be better than 2023. We have a strong community here that's willing to fight for each other and stand with one another when things get tough. And I think that will bring us into a pretty good year, all things considered.
And so, what's next? Obviously, there was an event on Monday, Make Noise Monday, where a lot of the community came together to rally around Equality Toledo's efforts. And so, what's next down the pipe?
Oh, the good question. Not really related to HB 68. The next event that we're going to host will be in February. It's our Black Excellence event. We do it for Black History Month. After that, we will continue hosting Make Noise Mondays. That will probably be pretty soon, just because we still have to handle the executive order and what to do after the Senate votes yes or no to override. So keep an eye out on our social media pages for more political activism and events of that nature. And then we also have the social events that we focus on as well that will happen throughout the year.
Well, Jourdyn McQueary, Executive Director of Equality Toledo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you. And that's this week's Community Focus. I'm Jaden Jefferson, and have a great week.